Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Overwatch Collective Podcast, Season 9, Episode 15, Take 2, with Karlee Davis. Karlee, how we doing?
Doing great.
Good, good. Happy to have you on once again. The first episode, we had some problems with the audio. Take number 2 here, so
Yes.
gonna do a little second take, get this up, and this is the first time we get to mention our new podcast sponsor. So Brain Performance Technologies, www.1bpt Bravo Papa Tango.com. They are here for our veteran and first responder community. They're doing a bunch of stuff with the brain to help with depression, post-traumatic stress, ADHD, anxiety, OCD. Through the treatment, you'll get better sleep. It's completely drug-free treatment. They're based out of San Jose, California. You can connect with Kelly, Kelley, at 1bbt.com. And once again, www.1bbt Bravo Papa Tango.com. And they're doing a bunch of amazing work with traumatic brain injury, reducing the symptoms of post traumatic stress. They do take TRICARE. So for our military community, if you're active and or reserve, you can get their services completely through TRICARE. So excited to mention them for the first time as the Overwatch Collective podcast sponsor. Wow, that's a mouthful. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. And then really quick, the Overwatch Collective, we're over $307,000 spent on therapy, 2,985 therapy sessions, either fully covered or financially assisted. And 279 people have gone through us to get connected to our therapists. So amazing stats, and we're able to do that by companies that support us, like Brain Performance Technologies for the podcast sponsorship, and Rust and Iron Clothing Company, Clyde, selling all of our merchandise on our website starting this coming weekend. And then 100% of the proceeds will be coming to us. So, yeah,
Great.
that's all the admin stuff.
Mhm.
But I'm going to pass it off to you. Can you give us a quick introduction of yourself, and then talk about begin counseling, and we'll kind of just take it from there and go through everything.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Karlee Davis, and I'm the owner of Begin Counseling. I'm a licensed independent clinical social worker. So I can give you some background on how that started, maybe how I started working with first responders.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah. Whenever I give that background, I always have to start with my husband and how we met. Whenever we first met, he was becoming a cop, so he was in the academy phase of things, and that was our deep dive into law enforcement, first responder life, those types of things, at least that aspect of it. And I also at that time was working in a domestic violence agency where I did ride along, well, not really ride alongs, but home visits with the sheriff's department there, and was helping them more in assisting the public versus, dealing with anything with their mental health. But there was definitely just a lot of exposure there. So that was a significant part of it. And we have a lot of friends and family that are first responders and fire service, law enforcement, military, those kinds of things. So my husband, whenever we like I said, when we first met, he was in that phase of things with the academy, but he was in law enforcement for a couple of years, then went into the military, and now is doing contracting, consultant work, federal government side of things. So not in law enforcement anymore, but just adjacent to some of that work. And it's given us a lot of insight over the years and things like that. So we just have a heart for first responders in general. I didn't really start digging into first responder work until 2017. I got my master's degree in 2007. But in 2017, I was trained in EMDR and started doing a lot of that work, working with a few first responders, starting into some of that and just seeing how helpful it was. That was really the beginning of kind of feeling convicted, compelled to share that, expand that, started talking to departments and really trying to just build relationships so that people would get some help. I've noticed that first responders really are not, at least at that time for me in this area, we're just not represented at all, hardly in counseling, unless it was an extreme crisis situation. So really that marginalized aspect of things, and wanted to create a space where they could get genuine help and it would be really helpful and people would come. So yeah, I can go into that as far as starting the practice. That came later, but
Yeah.
that was the beginning of the work.
Yeah, and then before you get into the practice, I am curious,
Mm-hmm.
what's the difference that you've seen between the civilian population and the first responder population when it comes to um, number one, like willingness to work with a therapist, and then number
Hmm.
two, like the trauma side thing.
Okay, so yeah, well, that's a really big question, but I will share a few things with
Yeah,
that.
you don't have to go
Obviously, the
too in depth.
obviously the reluctancy to start. I mean, everyone talks about the stigma. I think that's an aspect of it, but just even realizing that help could be helpful. Sometimes I've said before to people that people don't really, a lot of times don't realize what they need until they get what they need. That's something that I've noticed working with first responders and different, ways we end up starting out with people. And so that is huge. But I love working with first responders because once you get started, when there's a path, when there's a clear, like, we can deal with this and here's how we can probably take this on. I mean, the motivation, the
Hmm.
willingness to dig into that and really do the difficult work is there. So I think that that's something, and I'm not saying that doesn't exist. Obviously that's there with, other people as well, but that's something I would say is pretty consistent across the board when people do end up coming in, that's a high level of motivation to do that trauma work. As far as the trauma goes, I mean, first responder trauma, it just looks different and it presents itself quite different. We have to be able to treat it differently and address those things in such a way that is really helpful. But I do notice that as well, once people realize they can get some genuine help, that trust really grows, the word of mouth really spreads, and that can become something that's just snowballs into a helpful way as well.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I completely get it. And I think that's where the motivation and dedication comes into play with us, what they instill in our community. So then when you start
Yes.
going to therapy and you actually start seeing that it's not like
Mm-hmm.
it's not a bad thing and it's a good thing and it's actually helping, they're going to continue to go and be motivated to improve themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I forgot to mention, I should have mentioned, especially as one of our top contracted therapists, um, in the state of West Virginia.
Yes.
Um, and then recently just getting recontracted, sending everything over. I know we're going through that whole process
Yeah.
with the Overwatch Collective. Um, but yes, I should have mentioned that at the beginning. Karlee is one of our top contracted therapists, and the goal here is to have a podcast with every single one of our therapists, which may take 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do it.
Yes.
We are gonna do it. So walk me through Begin Counseling, when you founded it, what was the reason behind it, where it's located, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of building off of that time of getting trained in EMDR and starting to get more and more connected with departments. I was working at a different practice at the time that wasn't being in counseling, wasn't mine, but just doing that work still through there, and it was going really well. And just realizing as we got more and more connected with departments, I didn't know how that would go. Like I said, had shared this to give you to kind of back up, and then I'll come forward to that a little bit more. Going back to my husband, when he and I first got engaged, and I went into his department at the time and ran into someone there in leadership who kind of got me and was like, hey, almost like, you really don't want to marry a cop and this is not going to go well for you guys, and here's how the trajectory of law enforcement goes.
Mhm.
Which I get. Again, in his defense, let's say, I get why the stereotypes are there and those kinds of things, but that really stuck with me early on in my career. I was probably 22 at the time, and just thinking, newly into therapy at that point, but thinking, oh man, does it really have to go like that? And how can we do that differently? And we'll just accept this. And so that was in my mind, right? And kind of jumping to that time of starting to get with departments and be like, hey, we need to change this path. There are some things we could do along the way that maybe if that trauma did not accumulate in such a rapid way, that we could start to offload some of that throughout someone's career, that this doesn't have to pile up and overflow into their family life and create all these issues along the way. And so I started to see that happen as doing early intervention EMDR, even after certain calls or things that would come up with people, and being able to even see some prevention of those post-trauma symptoms, get ahead of it so that we're not going back, but dealing with things before we even get into that really bad symptom stage. So seeing some of that happen, also working with people who did have things that were a very long time ago, and we were able to work through those, and it was just changing, and you could see that kind of impact that's going to affect their families, their own life. And so that was something that just really became obvious that I needed to continue to do. I wasn't sure how that would go as I worked with different leadership to see, what they needed and receptiveness of, whatever we could offer as far as therapy goes. But a lot of people were extremely receptive. I had a range of those meetings. Some people who didn't even want to talk to me, other leadership in different departments who were like, oh, we need this, I don't know where to send people. I haven't had a place. And so some of it was really positive. And that's when I kind of realized, as I was going through that for really a few years, just building some trust and just doing the work. I mean, seeing clients and trying to help them and working through those things, and then realizing this is going to be bigger than me. I needed, if this were going to have the long-term impact that I really want to have, to change at least our community and have a genuinely safe and hopeful place for people to come and deal with whatever is needed that comes up in the first responder world. And I say that because we have the whole range of things that people are dealing with, even the most extreme incidents and things like that. That's like, we can handle it. We can do this together. You don't have to just keep that and hold that and be fine. And so that's when I realized, okay, this needs to be a practice where I can train therapists to do this with me, and we can expand this and have more people that have a heart for this, so really a calling to this work. For me, that was in 2023, that was kind of what I say is, it was just God's timing and purpose for me professionally that became very evident. And, when that's what you're supposed to do, you just kind of do what you're supposed to do, right? And that is what I'm hoping to have, just very lasting impact that can be beyond just me, myself doing the work, but really growing a team and having other people that are very passionate about this as well with me. So
yeah, and you essentially need a team, because once word gets out that Begin Counseling is helping people, they understand, they have the competency, and it's like high school, right? Everybody knows each other's drama, but it also works in a positive way too, so that, like, if I were to go to therapy through you, and then I use some of those tools and tricks that I've learned, and then I talk to my fellow buddies about it, then he or she may be like, hey, you know what? I actually want to try that. And they might do it out in front of people, or they might sneak it off and be like, hey, Greg, where did you go? How do you get me connected?
Yeah.
But obviously, your schedule could fill up so quickly and so easily. So how was that process in talking to the local departments and trying to essentially sell them on being like, hey, this is who I am, this is what we do, send your people to me, or how do we get in contact? How do we get contracted? Can you kind of talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really for us, like with Begin Counseling, we are a private practice. We're completely separate from any department. We're not embedded. We're not in any way connected there. So it's completely confidential, completely separate. Anytime we do come alongside departments, right? Like, we want to be a support to them and know that they have a place that they can refer people and utilize us. We have a whole range of connections with departments. So some just know of us and will recommend someone come if they need something. Some departments have us established in a way that's more policy driven, right after critical incidents or certain types of calls where people are even mandated to come for that session, but it's really for their benefit. Still is confidential. We're not assessing. We don't do fit for duties. We're not doing any type of evaluation in that manner. It's just to process the trauma for that first responder.
Okay.
So there's a lot of educating really what that's going to look like for departments. This is what we do, this is what we don't do, and here's why, and why that's beneficial to them and to their people, and that type of thing. So it definitely is a huge process there, but we see a whole range of I guess culture in different departments. Obviously every department's different, but every shift is different.
Mm-hmm.
Supervisors that are leading certain shifts, or it's really interesting just how that can kind of evolve, and see a lot of leadership themselves getting into therapy, counseling, and you see that impact. I mean, it's really cool to watch some of those things happen, but everywhere is so different. It's hard to speak to that in a sense that, every department's different. So many things are different there, but it's very encouraging. Like you said, I mean, having people who come in and do some work and deal with some things themselves. And again, it's very private and confidential, but sometimes eventually they do want to share that or talk about that.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Maybe at work, or people that other people don't expect are getting or in counseling. I mean, I think people have an idea of who goes to counseling, even in the first responder world, right? It's like, well, only somebody who, whatever. But and we've had that where people have come in and been like, well, this person said that they were coming and they were shocked that that person would ever step foot into therapy, right? And was sharing what they had dealt with. And so then it kind of opened up that door for them to do that when there was an incident that came up for them. And so some of that is just rolls down, right, in a good way.
Yeah, and and exactly, it rolls down in a good way, just like what you said. And when you have people that go to therapy and then talk positively about it,
Yes.
it's essentially normalizing people going
Absolutely.
to therapy and working on themselves. And I think that the days of seeing like, oh, you go to therapy, you're ex-nade, we don't trust you, etc., are I think those days are going away, which I'm super
Yeah.
excited to hear about when it's like a lot of these departments and people, they say, oh, we want to deliver the best product out there for our community. It's a representation of the police department, the sheriff's office, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, okay, you can train them in driving, domestic violence, response to critical
Yeah.
incidents, physical fitness, but if their head's not in the game, and you're not
Absolutely.
constantly having them check in on themselves, whether it's annual or biannual check-ins with a therapist, are you really delivering the best product, So I'm a big proponent of that. I like that. And I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The confidentially wow,
Confidentiality.
confidentiality aspect. Thank you. I got it. When departments send people to you, how do they track who's going to therapy? Is it like, hey, Greg Grogan is going to therapy at Begin Counseling on this date, and then you bill them? Is the chain of command, the higher ups, are they able to know that I'm going to therapy, or is it just like an employee number, or how does that kind of work?
Okay, so there's absolutely a whole range of that. The majority of our clients, people that come in, don't involve their department at all. I should say that, right? Like, it's most people just come to counseling just like anyone would,
Okay.
contact us, use, if it's insurance that we take, we figure out how to fund things if that's not how it's going to work, whatever, right? Figuring that part out. But most of the time, it's absolutely zero contact with their department at all. But departments who do want to support or have some systems in place to cover some sessions for people, it depends. There are certain circumstances, like critical incident type situations. Again, it's a very small portion, right? But the departments that are involved in that, I should say. We see a lot of people after critical incidents that just come on their own, but if the department's involved in that and they're requiring it, then yes, we have them sign. They have to sign permission for that to be shared, even
Yeah.
just that their name is shared and the bill, and that is what that's all that we tend to need to share. That's what is what is expected. And again, because we're not providing any type of evaluation or anything like that, nothing's going back even in those situations. But then we do have some things set up with, again, depends on the department, but peer support type policy, let's say, where they'll cover sessions for some of their people that it is still confidential, where we use a number system. Everyone's assigned a random number, and someone at the department still has to have that, like the ones we've worked with where there's like a peer support coordinator, but not the higher leadership. So that's worked out really well so far. We have that going with a few departments, and just another layer where even when the bill goes back, it doesn't have their name on it. Even in those situations, we are so careful with confidentiality and try to be so transparent about what is shared. So even in those situations when it's a number, we're still getting a release signed, because there's one person that knows who what number matches you. And so we try to be really transparent about what is shared, if anything is ever shared, and of course only with their consent and things like that. But that's worked out really well, and just having a layer of removal, I think, makes people a little more likely to use it, because it's really helpful when the department can cover some sessions for people who need to come in. And so, yeah, we're just working through different things, very flexible in different ways with different departments and where they're at. Some just don't have any funding for that. And so we try to work with the insurances and set up what we can with the ones that are, local to us. So
Yeah. And how is that working with the insurances? I know kind of one of the big things is working with insurance companies and getting reimbursed or reaching out. Like, can you talk through that a little bit?
I mean, it's generally a nightmare, right? This is why it's always a difficult thing with funding. I shouldn't say that always, but a lot of times, for providers, medical providers in general, it's just a difficult thing to navigate. And so we can't, and we don't take all insurances. We have to be selective about that, just in order to be able to stay up and running. I mean, reimbursement rates, it's a whole thing, right? So that's why we can't just take every insurance that exists, or we wouldn't be able to stay in business, honestly, sadly. I mean,
I get it.
Yeah, I know. And so that is tough when we run into things where, someone doesn't have the coverage that is needed, for the service. But we do, especially with our first responders, try to make sure we go through every possible avenue. We'll take care of them one way or another, but it's that can be a big snag for sure.
Yeah. No, definitely a challenge, and that's why one of the reasons when we started funding therapy, we were like, we're not even going to go through insurance at all. It's going to be all be just us,
completely separate.
Yeah, and that's one.
A lot of people prefer that, even for privacy, so that their insurance isn't connected to it at all, and that's got its own advantage too. So
so and that's been super helpful with us. Is like, hey, insurance is out of it. That's why we raise the funds to be able to do it, and then cover 100% of the first 3 sessions, and then drop into our tiered system, and then they can space out the tiered system as needed or as they can financially.
Right.
And then we're pretty flexible too. Like, if somebody's struggling financially, usually we'll get an email from the therapist that kind of confirms that and everything, and be like, hey, this person's really struggling to pay for this. Can we bring them back a tier? Can we bring them back to 100% for the first 3 sessions, which we've done several times. So it's nice to be able to have that flexibility. And I'll tell you, that is huge. It is huge. But obviously, like, for begin counseling, for my wife, Clarté counseling, like, they still need to make money to stay in business. Like, as much of like a nice heart that we all have, like, unfortunately, you still got to make money to stay in business. So,
well, that's the whole point, and you want that, right, to be able to run the business well. I mean, that's a whole other topic, but it really does serve our clients well to run the business well and have therapists who are, able to have the headspace and the time and to really dig into this specialization with first responders, because it's important and it takes constant training and keeping up that competency and really understanding the culture. And it ends up, it can be a really good thing to just have that benefit on all sides there. So
Yeah, no, I agree. And bringing up competency, look at this perfect
yeah.
transition. Begins emergency responder cultural competence model.
Yeah.
Dive into it. Let's take it away.
Okay. Yes. So that kind of came out of trying to, again, start, okay, how do we exactly create or set up a system for our therapists to be able to really understand first responders as best that we can without being in that work. I will say our team's pretty diverse as far as their backgrounds and reasons for working with first responders, and have very personal connected reasons as to why they're working with them. Anyway, I won't get into all of that, but yeah, so I was originally looking just to have maybe a certain training that I could find that everyone would take, or a certification that made sense. We do, EMDR is a big one for us. That's important. We do try to have all of our therapists trained in EMDR, or they're getting trained in EMDR. So that's a big one, just because I think that is a very holistic trauma training in and of itself, outside of even the modality. But the cultural competency model came from me not being able to find something that I really liked as far as one specific training that would cover everything. And I took a few of them and tried to figure out, and I'm like, it's just missing this or that, good things in there. But so I just decided we needed something that had components that were some trainings that already exist, out there. Also a training that I put together and provided, certain books that we think are really important. And as new ones come out, there's a lot changing in this realm these days. And so that's part of it. Ride-alongs. We try to have all of our therapists have access to ride-alongs on a pretty regular basis if they want. It's up to them as far as how frequently or what they want to do with that. Like with dispatch, even to sit in different departments that, over time, it's nice to be able to just drop in. We schedule ride-alongs, sometimes just stop by and spend a little time there, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's part of it too. And podcasts and different things that we've put together and worked through. We've got something coming up. We're going to review the book, Helping the Helpers, the Responder Resilience book. That's been a really good one, that Clinician's Guide kind of new book that came out. There's just not a lot out there. I mean, there's a lot out there, but not that puts it all together, right? So that's where that cultural competency model came from. That is just, it's kind of a living organism is how I would describe it, though. It's not like, here's the model that has these things and it never changes. We're adding new things to that, and we have pretty regular meetings and things to cover some of those things. So yeah, if that answers it.
No, it does. It does. Because it's always like you have to remain flexible too, because something may, like EMDR may work for one first responder, but it may not work for the other one,
Oh yeah. It's not for everyone. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there are a bunch of trainings out there, and like the CRFC, the Certified First Responder Counselor training, the Cortigo training. There are a bunch of those that, as we go through our vetting process for competency in our therapists, we're looking for obviously the EMDR, and then if they have any other training as well, like the Cortigo training, the CRFC, the ride along hours, essentially, because we need our community. Our community's a little messed up and definitely experiences a lot of trauma, and we can pretty much smell out who's competent and who's not.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Have you experienced that, or do you have any opinion on that? Because once I said that, yes, you can.
I know. It just made me think. One of the things we talk about, I tell our therapists, you have about 10 minutes. It's probably more like 1 minute, but about 10 minutes with someone before they've already made the full decision of whether you're genuine. I mean, the competence absolutely too, right? But that this is a genuine person. I really do think the therapeutic relationship I've always felt that way, especially in trauma work, that truly is where healing occurs, through that relationship. That has to be genuine and connected and present, and the right boundaries, and but different boundaries in some ways than other populations that you work with. So there's all of those factors. But I think within about 10 minutes of, first responder, military members like, got you figured out a little bit. And I welcome that. I think that's fine. I always say, but you get your whole hour, because they're also polite and respectful. So they're not going to like walk out on you. But you need to bring that forward. How can you help? How can we help? What they're dealing with, help them understand some of that, and that we can do this work together. It's not too much. What you've been through is not too much. What you're dealing with isn't too much. And just really have that, hey, there's hope. We can work together.
Yeah, gotcha. And so begin counseling, break it down. Like, how many therapists do you have? Are they going through the process of getting well trained in our community and the competence level? And then what's the goal for begin counseling?
Yeah, so there are 8 of us right now, and a few of us are full-time, and then most are part-time, working hours, just depending. A couple of our therapists have other jobs as well and work with us. So there's sort of the whole range of here all the time, here just a little, and then some in between.
Gotcha.
And yes, all of our therapists work with first responders. They get that experience and want to do that. But we do work with others in our community too. It's not that you have to be a first responder to come to begin counseling, but I would say the majority of our clients are, just because that's how it's grown, and people are seeking that out. So yeah, but our therapists have different backgrounds, different trainings, different reasons that they're in this work. Some who have addictions background and experience and want to work with that. Some who have obviously the trauma background, grief, EMDR background, or even domestic violence. And there's all sorts of different backgrounds kind of represented there. We have some of our therapists are married to first responders, or we have one who's a first responder himself. I mean, there's all sorts of different reasons that everyone has kind of gotten into this work and continues that training. But the one thing that is really definitely there, and I talk about this even before we bring someone on to be part of our team, it's not just about appreciating first responders or military or thinking, oh, really glad that you do your work, but I keep going back to that kind of that calling to it, so to speak, because it's we're going to dig into some really difficult, dark spaces, and making sure people are really wanting to do that, because it's not for every therapist. It's definitely not, and that's okay, but we try to work through as much of that ahead of time. We have had to say no to people, plenty of people, like, this isn't going to work, this isn't for you, and that's okay. So
I get it.
That's really important to me, to kind of screen that. And
yeah, no, I get it. And it's like, as much as you want to have more people on, and like, especially for you, right? Like with the business and you being the head honcho, it's like, we want as many people on, right? We want this to grow, but you don't want to have the right people on and then have to deal with the potential consequences later. And it's kind of like us, like, we've had to say no to people who've applied to be contracted therapists with us, because we're just like, we can't take everybody, and we focus a lot on ensuring that anybody in our community that goes through us is going to get connected to a therapist that's well trained and that gets it. And a majority of the time, you have one shot.
That's it. One session. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And it's too important. I mean, it's too important. And I mean, growth is important in the business aspect, but it can't be the wrong growth, or again, the whole purpose, the whole mission of all of it is to have that value for them and to have truly helpful, competent counseling. And so that has to look a certain way and grow a certain way and be available. And that's a huge part of it, that we want to make sure people have a good experience. And I get that you can't 100% of the time assure that, but even keeping communication open, if it's not a good fit, we'll put you with somebody else. If we are not, even as a practice, I say this all the time, if it's not us, I mean, we'll tell you that, even how we kind of go through our intake process. I mean, hey, I think this practice would be better, or this person specifically I would recommend. We just want people to be connected with the best therapist for them. If that's
Yeah.
with us, if that's somewhere else, that's fine, right? We try to really respond to everyone and take care of everyone as best we can to make sure that's the case.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that and doing that, because it'd be very easy to say, "Oh yeah, we're trained, we can take care of you," et cetera, because a
Yeah.
lot of people, and unfortunately it probably does happen in our community where people are not well trained or not the best fit for that person, but they're still going to go ahead and say, "Oh yeah, we'll take you, blah blah blah,"
Yes.
and just skate through sessions to
Mm-hmm.
get money or to get stats or whatever, and
Right.
then you're not helping that person. So I like that aspect of it, and that's where for us, like the Overwatch collective, like the collective name came in, where it's like it we specialize in getting connected people connected to therapists and then funding
Yes.
it. Like we're not going to say we also specialize in XYZ. We're going to get
Yeah.
all of our connections, all of our resources, and be like, we're going to connect you to this person, this nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
this podcast, whatever the
Right.
case. So
Whatever they really need. Yes. Yeah,
mhm.
that is so important. And that's something I sometimes we'll talk about too, just as a practice. Our lane really is professional counseling, and try to do that with, a lot of integrity and excellence in that, to make sure that we're providing the best care in that realm. There's so many other things out there. Not that we will on occasion do some trainings, if needed, or there are other things we provide even after certain incidents and things like that. But that really is the lane that we always protect and take really good care of, right? Because when that need becomes what someone is looking for, right? The professional therapy, professional counseling, we want to make sure they're getting really good care in that way.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. No, I appreciate it. And I'm glad that you're on the same page. And I think that's the way that you have to go with this community. Um, so what is therapy specifically with you? What does therapy look like with you? If somebody wanted to get connected to you and they went to our website, saw that you were on there, saw you on social media, listened to the podcast, checked out your website,
Yeah.
all the things, uh, and they were like, hey, I'm thinking about reaching out to Karlee to go to therapy, what would that process kind of look like for them?
Yeah, so our website is definitely a place where we've put a lot of effort to make sure there's a lot of resources available in advance. We found that, especially with this community, there's a lot of research that's done before anyone ever reaches out, typically. I always say that we keep some spots open to get first responders in really quickly, because a lot of times by the time they are reaching out, even if they're like, oh, no rush, right? I'm like, treat it like a crisis, basically. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we want to make sure if someone's reaching out that we know and sometimes that's taken years to finally make that step. So, having, just accessibility, we almost have what we call like our sick visits, right? Like those spaces like your doctor would have, just to get people in quickly when needed. But our website has a lot of information on it. We just set up a new spot that we're developing too, where some people that have worked with us have kind of written out some of their stories a little bit. I think that might be a helpful thing for people to read through some things some other people have done, have gone before them, makes it a little less intimidating. And so it's all anonymous, of course. I mean, nothing identifying is shared, but hoping to develop that a little bit more too, to get an idea of what it's like in that way. But our intake process could happen without having to talk to anyone if someone chooses. We found a lot of people like that, to go through, a contact form, an email, their portal is all their documents are electronic, that kind of thing. But hop right on the phone with somebody if they want to talk. So, we have different ways of going about that. Just try to fit what the person wants and needs. If they want a consult, we'll do a consult, to just see if it's a good fit. If they have questions specifically, sometimes people do want to know, and I appreciate that. Hey, like, have you worked with this or that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll talk through that and answer all those questions too. And then we go from there. But as far as the first appointment, you just come in and it's just very much a conversation, see what they need, how we could work together, whatever is going on that got them in at this point, talking through that, different ways with me specifically, how I can help, what that might look like, make sure they feel like it's a good fit, and, we keep going from there.
Yeah, I think it's important in every episode that I do with one of our therapists to kind of be like, what does therapy look like you with you?
Yeah,
Do you do the 15-minute consultation? Do you mix things up
right.
to what their needs are, you know? So I think it's important for everybody to know. And then
Yeah.
so two last things. Where can everybody find you, support you? Go to the website and then I'll ask you our last question.
Okay. Yes, I will add to the previous question that you had about what does it
Please
look
do it.
like. So I,
Yep.
I do talk a lot about EMDR, but you know, obviously, like I had mentioned earlier, that therapeutic relationship, the conversation is really a lot of it. So even when we're doing EMDR, there's a lot of other things occurring in between that we might do. So still a lot of talking in there if they want to. What's cool about EMDR for some folks, if they really don't want to talk through a lot of things, that's an option where there can be less of that. But yes, our website, so I'll jump to that. Our website is begincounseling.com. So very easy, Begin Counseling. We're in Falling Waters, West Virginia. It's Berkeley County. We're in the part of West Virginia that's pretty small between Maryland and Virginia. So we have a lot of our clients come from various states. We're only an hour and a half outside of Washington, D.C. So, we get referrals from those departments. A lot of people live in this area and commute to some of those departments. So, um, begincounseling.com is the best spot. And then we're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, at Begin Counseling on all of that pretty much. You'll find us if you search the name in West Virginia, we'll show up. So, yes, our website has a lot on there as far as like I'd shared a little bit of that. We have EMDR section, trauma section. I mean, there's all sorts of just our values as a practice, how to contact us. I mean, there's a lot on there with that.
Even on X, huh? Look at you.
Yeah. Well, it's new. It's in the baby phase, but
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
our whole practice, we're growing all those things, so it'll take time, but
Hmm.
we'll get there.
Yeah, sweet. And then the last question, how we wrap up every single one of our podcasts, our episode or our not our episode, our motto here is one more is one less. Um, so it comes from first episode or the first season. I can't even talk right now. Where an Army combat vet lost more friends to suicide than actually overseas in combat. So we like to ask our guests what one more is one less means to them.
So that I do think about when you say that about suicide and life, right? Just one more life. But I really take that and think about that a lot. And even in the concept of doing this work and building the practice, it was really about quality of life. So when I think about one more, I think about one more quality of life, that generational impact that it can make when someone really does get genuine good help and has change in their life, changes everything, affects marriages, families, truly generational. I mean, just it's so neat to see that and the beginnings of that happening for people. And then one less, I think about that negative trajectory that walking into my fiance at the time's department and like, hey, here's what it's going to look like. And I know that that is genuinely what it looks like for some people. And so I think about one less of that path
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah, that's the goal is
Yeah.
obviously the one less path and I
Yeah.
appreciate you breaking that down and I think it's important all the work that everybody's doing and it's and it does come from like the passion and like what you talked about and how you essentially turned all of this and your motivation into Begin Counseling and now you want to get more people in
Yeah.
touch and connected with the first responder community. And it's like, if we can get more and more of this, we're going to hit more and more first responders, which would hopefully mean less suicides
Absolutely.
in the long run. So,
We
um,
know that's already happening. You hear about
oh
it. You
yeah,
can kind of hear that people
yeah,
who've directly said that, and
mm,
then people who don't say it but kind of say it without saying it.
yep,
It's happening. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. No, and that makes my heart happy because
Yeah.
that's the entire goal and the entire mission.
Yes.
So at least that's working. And
Yes.
a small part in that. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. I'm going to mention our sponsor one more time.
Yeah.
So
Thank
Brand,
you so much too.
of course.
Thank you for doing the
Second,
Overwatch. I mean, it's huge, huge impact.
thank you. Oh, I appreciate the support. and it's nice to have you on for a second time.
Yeah.
So Brain Performance Technologies, everybody go check it out, brainperformancetechnologies.com. You can get some info on there. Also check out www.1bbt, better sleep, free drug treatment, like I said, through TRICARE for our military community. Um, you can get this for yourself totally through TRICARE. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or Kelly, Kelley, at 1bpt.com. Wraps it up. Sweet. Karlee, I appreciate you coming on once again. And I'm looking forward to this episode to drop. Let's see, today's October 31st. It'll drop next Friday.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. You have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye bye.